Well, hey guys, how's it going? It's been a while. Um, a lot has happened, and we need to talk. But it's not going to be bad. So don't fret, don't worry that it's going to be something really traumatic or terrible, because it's not that bad. But for the past, as far as you guys are aware, for the past couple months I've been going through a lot of testing and seeing doctors and getting symptoms checked and trying to come to a basic conclusion of what's going on. And for the first time in my entire life, I finally have somewhat of an answer. And that alone is incredible. And I thought about it for a little while, because here it is Saturday night and I got the results of everything on Thursday morning. And I thought about it, thought about whether or not I wanted to mention it, whether or not I wanted to discuss it, whether or not it was worth discussing. And I've come to the conclusion that it is, because what if there's other people out there that are in my same scenario that I have dealt with for almost my whole life? And I could potentially help some people if I give them basically my side of the story, to kind of guide them and direct them and let them know that having a diagnosis or having a direction or getting help, getting medical attention is possible for what feels like the impossible. And I'm not saying this in a way where it's only going to pertain to people in my scenario, but in general, man or woman, whatever you're going through, whatever issue is happening, you may be able to relate to this. So this vlog is going to be more serious, it's going to be more descriptive, it's going to be very TMI. So if you are not really into that whole personal level and you don't like to hear about gross things, then you can skip this and I'll forgive you. It's fine. I won't get angry. But I do want to mention it. I do want to talk about it because it is important. And it is something that I have dealt with, and maybe I've mentioned some stuff here and there, and I've talked about some stuff here and there, but I don't think I ever addressed the majority of what has been ailing me and what I've been going through. I probably come across, and this is just hypothetically speaking, but I probably come across as just a fat gamer. You know, to be blunt about it, is oh, that girl plays video games, she sits at home all day, she doesn't do anything else. She just eats and sleeps and breathes video games, and that's not really what it is. And I've lived a lifestyle where I have struggled with everything. I have struggled with things going on inside my body, with things going on outside my body, and just never having a diagnosis, never having a lead, never really having a, definitive, yes, you have this is what we could do, here's your cure, for ever. And it has been frustrating, both physically and mentally. And it will continue to be frustrating physically and mentally, but at least now there's reasons. And I am finally going to be getting the treatment and the push that I need to get better. And it's going to be a very difficult journey to getting better, but it's starting. So I wanted to fill you guys in on my wonderful story of how I got to where I am and where we're going. And hopefully throughout the year and into the future and how long this goes, to kind of give everybody a progress kind of update every now and then on how well everything's going and how I'm feeling. And so yes, again, fair warning, very TMI, very gross. So if you don't feel like talking about personal things and blood and all that stuff, then click off this video, because it's not going to be fun and I'm going to ramble a lot. So forgive me. Minimal editing, because this is as raw as I possibly can be. So this is a story of me, the real me, that has gone through these ailments for 20 years, almost 20 years. This started when I was 12, when I first got my period. And being a teenager, as everyone knows, is a very miserable time. And especially when you hit puberty and you go through hormonal changes, you know, I'm sure everybody who has children of their own going through that phase can vouch for it. It is not a fun time for anybody. It is miserable. It's not like some blossoming flower. It's not, you know, whatever. It's supposed to be that way. That's okay. For me, however, was a lot worse, because in preparation for this upcoming puberty, of everything I've ever learned, of everything I've ever been told, of everything I've ever read in the textbook or, you know, discussed with family or anything, none of that happened. None of it happened. In fact, when I got mine was the most painful, the most scariest, the most concerning thing ever for that time. You know, I was told that, like, oh yeah, you know, you'll feel like shit for like a little bit and then it'll go away. And it never went away. Like, and I would go through, instead of having a period for like a couple days to a week, I would bleed for literally months. Like, the longest I think I ever remember was about 3.5 months. Now I'm 12. Remember, I'm 12. 3.5 months of just fully bleeding is not fun. Bleeding, cramps, the whole 9 yards. And it's scary when you're a kid, because you think, am I dying? Is something wrong? But despite what you're feeling and what you're going through and what you're seeing and witnessing and experiencing, nobody feels the same about it. Nobody, you know, is concerned. Nobody is worried. Nobody is, you know, scared for you. Everyone carries on, you know, their normal ways, and you're just like, but how, like, why, how, like, is this normal? And like, nobody can give you a straight answer. Was the experience of my start into puberty, was just like terrified. And when I would complain about it, now mind you, I would complain about it to my family. Now, in my circumstance, I was adopted by my grandparents, so I never really wanted to come forward to my grandparents and tell them that my period was painful and that I didn't know what was going on. So I would come forward to my parents, to my family, and be like, you know, I feel like crap, I don't know what's happening, I can't stop bleeding. And I would just get this generic, like, you're fine, it's new, you'll be okay, you know, it's just for now, it's just temporary, it's because you just got it, it'll regulate over time, just give it time, be patient. And the same thing with the doctors would tell me the same thing, just give it time, it'll be patient, it's new, you'll get used to it, your body's adjusting, it's changing, blah blah blah, you know, this whole story. And it never did, ever. And I went through years of like humiliation, pretty much, because of it, which, you know, sounds like I'm exaggerating it, but yeah, humiliation of, you know, going to school and having to bring change of pants and clothes and underwear because I couldn't contain what was happening within me, constantly going to the bathroom, constantly having to get a hall pass just so I could change everything. You know, not really being able to participate in physical activities. Like gym class was a nightmare. Like I would just stand in the back or the corner and just like hope to God I wasn't called or like made to run or anything. And that was how everything went with me for like 3 years. 3 years of this. That everyone told me, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. When I hit 15, I got really aggravated and outlashed at people, and I was just like, I'm not fine, this is not fine, I want to go get this checked out. And my family complied, took me to a doctor, and the doctor was like, fine, we'll run through tests. So they did blood work, nothing came up. They sent me for a basic ultrasound to see if they could find anything. Nothing came up. And they sent me to a gynecologist, which I knew was at the time, and even though I needed it and I wanted it, you know, I was also really scared for it because of obvious reasons, first time going and all that stuff. And despite the fact that I potentially had a medical issue, the gynecologist refused to do a pap smear or anything because I was a virgin and I was 15. So that was very humiliating, and like even to this day I can't even wrap my head around why I was denied at a time where I should have been evaluated, where I should have been checked out legitimately at a young age, was turned away medical care because I was a virgin. I will never understand that to this day. You know, maybe other people have answers to that, but I don't. And thus, everything else came back normal. So the doctor threw at me what he could, what he threw everybody else who went through the same issue, was like, you'll be fine, here, take this pill, you'll be okay. It was birth control. Now, if you're unaware of how birth control works and you're not familiar with it, you just think it's just something you take to prevent being pregnant. But birth control is also used to treat other things. Like it can treat acne, it can treat like mood swings and like cramps and stuff like that. And it can also control the cycle of your period. It can basically reform your body to accommodate a certain amount of time in order to menstruate and a certain amount of time to ovulate and so on and so forth. So you're basically taking this pill according to like a calendar on this, you know, packet of pills. Is like you take the white pill and you don't have a period. You take the yellow pill, you're ovulating, and you take like the green pill and you're supposed to have a period. And that's basically how they work. And depending on what brand you get, the colors are different, but it's about the same thing. And there's a whole bunch of different kinds, and there's ones with different levels of like estrogen and testosterone and progesterone and all this stuff that are supposed to do different things depending on what your body needs them for. So I went on that, and there were some days it worked. There were some days it didn't work. And I literally took it every single day of my life at 7:45 in the morning from the ages of 15 to the age of about 23. I took these pills. And the entire time that I took them did not accommodate my mood swings. In fact, made me feel more irritable, more bloated, did not do anything to regulate my cycle all the time. Like, sometimes it would be within that window, sometimes it'd be longer, sometimes it would be the whole month, sometimes it would be shorter, sometimes it wouldn't have it a month at all, and it would just flop around depending on what happened. And I was put on like maybe like between that one and maybe another brand of birth control, just kind of cycling back and forth between them and just like never really having luck, so to speak. And during this time, which is mostly my fault, of the time from like when I graduated high school up until 23, never went to a gynecologist or got anything checked out or anything. I just continued to take this pill, just whatever. And I remember when I was first on it, it was before health insurance covered it. So for me to get this pill was like anywhere between $30 and $60 for a pack of like 30 pills or 28 pills or however many is in that. And, you know, for someone who started not working and then working part-time, that's expensive, you know? But that's what I did. And everything pretty much stayed the same. I gained weight. I had a lot of water weight. I had a lot of bloating. I had issues. I still had cramps. I still had everything. But I just continued to take it because I was just conditioned at such an early age to be like, this is the norm. I just feel like shit forever kind of thing. And I was just so frustrated with fighting the system to try to convince them otherwise that I just said, whatever, it is what it is. I'll just do it. When I hit 23, that was when my grandmother, who I call mom, but that's another story, started having a lot of issues with heart palpitations. They thought she was having heart attacks. They thought she had a hole in her heart. Like she was having like blood bleeding disorders and like all this stuff. And she had a history before, like long before, blood clots and everything else. So they were analyzing her for a lot of stuff. And they said she was at risk of like heart attack or stroke because of her age and everything. She was in her 60s. And that was also around the same time that I learned somewhere, I don't remember if it was on the internet or I heard about it or what, but that was around the same time I learned that being on birth control for so long also increases your risk of blood clots and strokes, the more you're on it. So after that part, I was like, done. No need to be on it anymore because nobody was really regulating it for me anymore. I was just like taking it by default and like nobody was following up on like blood work or checking anything out. My family doctor who prescribed that to me died. He died. My doctor died. Yes, that's a thing that happens. And I didn't have, you know, another doctor after that. And then around the same time, I ended up transferring over to a different doctor because it was also the same time John and I started dating, right when I stopped taking this, and I saw a doctor that was closer to where I was living here. And afterwards, you know, everything just kind of carried on normally. I would still have really bad periods, really bad cramps, really bad symptoms, and like just I had learned over the years to just live with it. You know, after you almost deal with it for 10 years, you're like, whatever, it is what it is. Until probably around November, December of 2011, my period stopped completely. Now, it wasn't unusual for me to be skipping months. Like, I've skipped a month or two. No problem. And usually by the end of the second month, something starts showing and appearing, and then it's like, okay, whatever, that's fine. But the fact now that I was sexually active, and then my period disappeared. So we went through the holidays. So it was like right after Halloween, we went all through Thanksgiving, all through Christmas. By the end of Christmas, and then into the new year of 2012, I started getting scared because there was no sign of it coming back. No sign or anything. So naturally, when you're in your early 20s and you don't have money or a decent job or a good foothold on life, you go in the fetal position and you cry your eyes out because you think you're pregnant and you are not ready to be a parent. And that's what happened. I was very concerned with the fact, oh my God, what happened? Because The only thing that changed is now I'm in a relationship and I'm having sex. So it's got to be that, right? So I went to the store. I bought a couple pregnancy tests. I took everything. Everything came back negative. You know, then you start Googling things because Google is your best doctor ever and totally doesn't tell you everything that's ever wrong with you is cancer. Started saying like, oh, well, you know, there could be false negatives. So like it could say negative, but could be positive. And so now I'm scared. So now I go to the new doctor who's not dead and tell them like, hey, my period's gone and I don't know what's going on. And they immediately, it was weird. It was very weird. And I don't know if I perceived it being weird because it felt weird to me. But I felt like in that moment of me telling them, they treated me as like a different kind of patient that I had never experienced on like a personal level before. They suddenly saw me as like, oh, you poor thing, you're going to be a single new mom kind of thing. It was weird. The vibe that I got was just like, I don't know. But they sent me for, you know, a bunch of blood work and stuff. Like, okay, first we're going to check to make sure you're not pregnant. So then they send me for blood work and like the blood work comes back negative. But it did come back that my hormone levels have all tanked. All completely tanked. Which meant my body was no longer producing the hormones I needed to even have a period anymore. It was just gone, done, dead, pretty much. So at that moment in January 2012, I was diagnosed by that doctor with hypothyroidism. So I suddenly had this whole like, oh wow, I actually have a thing now and I have to treat it. So at the time that I was looking it up and I was being informed about it and I was, you know, put on medicine for it, I thought, well, maybe this was the condition all along. Maybe I had this all along and like nobody would treat me. And it was just being subdued by the fact I was taking birth control. I don't know. So during that year was the same year that John and I started on this weight loss journey. And we started working out really intensely. You know, we kind of saw this as like a, you know, well, hey, you had a health scare, you know, let's both try to get healthier. We'll both go on a diet. We'll both work out. We'll both lose weight. And we did. And we did. You know, because one of the things that they say when you have hypothyroidism, it's hard to lose weight. So like, it's hard to lose weight. Oh, yes, it is. Anything that John would do, like he could run on the treadmill for 20 minutes and lose 50 pounds. And I ran on the treadmill for 20 minutes and I lost like a half pound, sometimes gained it, depending on what time of the month it was. And so we lost a significant amount of weight, and I don't really have much pictures to prove that, so you'll probably just have to take my word for it, but I did. I lost 50 pounds in a year. From January 2012 to January 2013, I lost 50 pounds. And it was incredible, but it didn't fix anything. You know, I kind of hoped in some way that losing weight would make me feel better. You know, I'd have more energy, you know, my hypothyroidism would go away, everything would be fine, you know, I would have a fresh new start on life and I'd take better care of myself. This is what I was painting in my head. That's not what happened. Because even 50 pounds lighter, I still had hypothyroidism. I was having a lot more serious symptoms without the weight than I did with the weight, which is weird. I started feeling more faint, like more lightheaded, from doing anything, sitting up too fast, getting blood work, but to be fair, I feel faint anyway getting blood work because needles. And I just didn't understand. I was like, what did I do wrong? Like, I lost weight, like it should be fine, but it wasn't. So that same year, we went through a series of crazy, life-changing scenarios. John's mom died. We were kind of in a unsure situation with the house, if we were going to have it or not. So we were thinking, like, are we going to have a home? Do we have to get an apartment? Like, everything was stressful in her passing because we're trying to get all the right paperwork. We're trying to get everything done. So, like, naturally, we stopped going to the gym. We start stressing out a lot more. We start eating bad food all the time because we're just like, we're tired, we're working more, all this stuff. So within a couple months, I was back to square one. I was back to being 50 pounds heavier and dealing with the same issues. But at least by the end of the year, we had everything figured out with the home. So like that stress was somewhat alleviated. And then we started doing stuff for the house for us. So we started doing remodeling and projects and all that stuff. And then, I'm trying to think how many years went by, because that was 2013. And then 2014, I started my full-time job. And then 2015, I started having problems with my legs. And during this entire time, I still had hypothyroidism. My levels were going up and down all the time. I was getting them evaluated every 6 months by my family doctor. And when my legs started giving me issues, it was around the same time that I tried to go to the gym and work out and like get back into dieting and back into losing weight. And I would just have this super crazy, stinging, stabbing, painful feeling in my legs in certain spots no matter what I would do. Came to find out that my varicose veins were basically getting very swollen and twisted to the point that they were on their way to becoming blood clots. It's like a symptom called DVT, deep vein thrombosis, where like basically your vein will twist up and will cause issues and you can have blood clots. And since the only side of my family history that I know is my mom's side, and every woman in that family has blood clots and varicose veins and all those issues. So I didn't mess around with it. So for 2015 and 2016, I had surgery on each leg to get rid of them. So that way I didn't have to worry about those veins being an issue. They're gone. And all while still having hypothyroidism issues, period issues, you name it. And the healing process after the leg surgery took a little bit longer than I wanted it to, because I had one done at the end of 2015 and then I had the other one done at the beginning of 2016. And it was like 3 months apart for surgery, but like one leg took a lot longer than the other to heal. And I was trying to like work out, and I was still feeling like swelling and like throbbing sensations in my legs because they weren't fully healed yet. So it took a while to actually try to get back to working out. But then after the surgery had happened, I started experiencing these new series of ailments where I was just completely drained and exhausted all the time. And it didn't matter what time of the month it was. It didn't matter what was going on or how much stress I was in. I was always tired. Like, I could take a 10-hour nap. Not a 10-hour nap, but I could go to bed for 10 hours, get up, and want to take a nap. That's how tired I was all the time. And the only thing I could think of, like, it's got to be my weight, you know, because I gained a little bit more weight than what my cap was. So it's got to be weight, right? Like, what else would it be? And didn't at the time think about telling the doctors because of all the surgery and stuff that I had done. And I just kind of coughed it up to the fact it's, you know, it's my thyroid, it's probably just making me tired, whatever. Not thinking or taking into consideration that it's being medicated and I shouldn't feel this way, but I digress. Sorry about that. I rambled so long that my camera shut off. Yay me. Yay rambling. So then the next thing in the timeline that happened around like 2017, 2018 was I finally brought up to my family doctor, who my family doctor, the actual doctor I haven't seen in years at this point, because I was seeing his PA, physician's assistant, who was like out of college for a couple of years and like treating patients, and like I was like, whatever, that's fine. And she started to listen to me a little bit more when I was telling her, like, I'm tired all the time, you know, I just never have energy, I'm not sure what's going on. So she ran more blood work on me and determined that according to the levels of my body, which these results I've never seen, that I probably have PCOS, which is persistent with everything that's going on between periods and like everything else. And she wanted to put me on metformin, which is usually used for diabetics to kind of help with symptoms of PCOS and help lower like levels of insulin and stuff like that, because it's like, it's weird. It's like when you have, when you're on metformin for like your period, it's like something with your ovaries and like your sugar levels being like really weird. It's hard to explain. You'll have to like look it up on your own because it's really weird to explain. But I was on metformin and I was on it for several months, probably 4 or 5 months, I want to say, before I had to stop taking it, because after a while I started experiencing like my ankles would swell. They would just be like balloons. It would look like I would just have like a calf that went straight to a foot. It was like cankles. And they would be like swollen and painful and they would hurt. Like my hands would swell. Like I don't wear rings, so like I can't really like tell, but like they would swell. And it was weird, and it didn't happen only during my period. It didn't happen like right before it or right after. It was just all the time, no matter when I took it. So I told her about it, and they said, stop taking it then. So I stopped taking it, and then blood work came back normal. And then at the end of 2018, the whole thing with the throat happened, which I mentioned before in previous videos, where I had a really sore throat that would not go away forever. And I ended up going to the doctor for it, and this PA looks in my throat and she's like, oh, you have like a giant cyst in there that needs to be drained. You need to go to the emergency room right now. So like she made me think like I'm gonna die. So then John got out of work, took me to the ER, and you know, went through the whole thing. And I had like this slip of paper that she wrote me of like what it was called. She told me to tell him that it was called like peritonsillar something abscess, peritonsillar abscess, I think is actually what it was. So I go in there to get my throat and everything checked out, and long story short, but after all of the testing and blood work and CAT scans and everything else they did on me, they're like, you have tonsillitis. So that was really humiliating. And they gave me an antibiotic. I was sent home. Everything went away. It was fine. And then the end of 2018, after that whole incident, I was given blood work to test my thyroid levels and everything, which I never got done because of the holidays and then because of that whole thing with my throat. So right after Christmas, like right into the new year, I went and I got blood work done. And my PA calls me and is like, everything looks good, except your iron levels are really low. Okay. So she's like, I'd like to run them again. So then she runs my iron levels again, and they're still really low. So then she asks me, have you had heavy periods? Like, my whole life. And then thus went down this rabbit hole of finally getting checked out, like officially by actual doctors. And I don't think I mentioned anywhere in the story that I did finally, in between all that time, I did go to gynecologists in the past, which they all turned me down for whatever I was experiencing and coughed it up to the fact that I'm just a woman and I need to man up about it. And they're like, well, I've had gynecologists in the past tell me, you don't have PCOS, you don't have endometriosis, you know, you don't have anything wrong with you, you're fine. And they were all assholes, like complete assholes, and they didn't treat me nice at all, and made the entire entire experience so much worse, to the point that I never wanted to go back when I had to, which you should never feel that way about a doctor. So upon this PA realizing, like, you know, hey, your iron's low and you have heavy periods, she's like, you should really go get him checked out. Do you have a gynecologist? And I was like, yes, I do, but I hate her. Do you have a different one? And she referred me to a specialist that their office is actually inside the hospital near us. And from reviews, this woman is like really, like, not just the woman, but this office and like everyone that she has there working for her, it's like really well known. She's like the top of the area. And she also does like herbal treatment and more modern medicine, more modern technology, and uses a lot of stuff. And like I felt confident about it because I was like, oh, thank God, I hope these guys are okay. So I had my appointment made for February, and then I go and I see her, and I see one of the like physician, not physician assistants as such, but like one of the other people working under her. And I see her and I explain to her everything that had ever happened to me that I explained in this video. And what I loved was the fact that she listened to me, she took me seriously, and she, you know, was just like, my God, you went through so much. Like, we're going to get to the bottom of this. And sent me for a bunch of blood work, as well as an ultrasound, which turned into 2 ultrasounds. I had a regular one done and a transvaginal one, which is where they go up inside and they check everything out. So that took 2 weeks, because I had the blood work done 1 week, the ultrasounds done the 2nd week, and then the 3rd week, which was right at the end of February, which was last Thursday, had to go back for the results. And after all this time of experiencing everything that I went through and just being really aggravated with the process of what has been going on with me and just never really finding an answer, I finally have a couple answers. I say a couple because I thought that I would have like one issue, that it was just one underlying issue, and it's honestly multiple issues. Sorry about that, guys, but the video completely died on me when I was right at the good part. I promise I didn't do this intentionally. My battery died because I was rambling so long. So if you're wondering what all the noise is, there's a dishwasher running in the background, but it's just me and the doll here right now.
Yep, little baby. Do you mind if I sit here? You mind if I tell people what's going on with me? Are you mommy's baby? You good girl? Yeah. You're a good girl.
So, right to the good part. Finally found out what's going on with me, and it's a couple of different things, which I wasn't anticipating it being a multitude of issues and symptoms. I kind of thought and hoped in a way that it would just be like one issue, like one problem, like, okay, you have this and you need to fix just this, but it's like, it's a couple of different things. So like, I have a diagnosis, but not really. So the number one thing that they addressed to me is they did confirm that I have PCOS. So what I was told last year by my last doctor was right, so thank God for that. So I have PCOS, and as a result of having PCOS for like, I don't even know how long before I was officially diagnosed, I currently have a ovarian cyst on my right ovary. It is about a little bit less than an inch in diameter, so it's about like this big, and it's on my right ovary. And the good news is, as long as it doesn't cause me any extreme pain or discomfort and it doesn't get any bigger, then I could just exist with it. If it gets bigger, if it causes issues, then I'm going to have it surgically removed in the future. Number two, which was something I wondered about for a long time, because as you guys have, at least most of you guys have known, I was diagnosed many years ago with hypothyroidism, as I had been explaining it, and now I've been diagnosed with Hashimoto's disease, which is like a correlation kind of like connected to hypothyroidism, but Hashimoto's disease is more of a autoimmune disorder, whereas hypothyroidism was like a hormone imbalance. So now it's an autoimmune disorder. And there's really no complete cure to it. There's a way to manage it, there's a way to live with it, but technically I will probably have it for most of my life now. So that explains a lot of like the really weird symptoms and syndromes that I've been experiencing, like the extreme chronic kind of tiredness and exhaustion, and like the brain fog, and you know, just everything else, and just like never having energy, always being cold, always living in hoodies, as you can see, and like being all warm and stuff all the time inside a house. So that's two. And then the final one, which was something that caught me off guard and completely by surprise. I had never heard of it. I had no idea what was going on when I was being told to test for it. Is there is a possibility that I might have a benign tumor on my pituitary gland in my brain. And it sounds scarier than it actually is, but I guess like having that is something that people can live with. Again, as long as it doesn't get bigger and it doesn't cause issues, you know, it's not cancerous, so it won't ever turn into cancer. You know, it's fine, and people live with them, and they're actually pretty common. The reason why they're almost deducting the fact that I might have that is because in one of my lab work that I got, there is a thing called prolactin, which it's supposed to be within a certain range, and my prolactin level was actually like way exceeding that. And prolactin, from what I remember researching, and don't quote me because I might be a little bit wrong, but prolactin is like a hormone that is usually produced by the body when you're either pregnant or breastfeeding or something like that. So like if you are producing that without having any of those conditions, then it's like an imbalance of your pituitary gland. It's like something in your brain that's causing like mixed signals essentially, and is like telling your body to do different things when it shouldn't. So that's another cause. But for sure, PCOS and Hashimoto's. And they are trying to determine the pituitary gland one, which I just went this past weekend for more blood work to reanalyze those levels to make sure that those are reading what they are reading. And then depending on the results and depending on the next step, I may have to go see a endocrinologist to kind of get all of that evaluated, which he could also do my thyroid and check that. So like there's a lot of stuff going on, but that's my giant story of like what's been going on and what's been happening. And like you guys have no idea. I mean, some of you might, but like I'm relieved and also terrified in a way, because I have kind of a path now that I can like go down and be like, okay, this is what's wrong, and let's, you know, try to see what we can do to fix it. But at the same time, I'm scared because I don't know where it'll lead to, or how much worse it will get, or like what I can do and what, if I do anything, will help, kind of thing. So what's going to happen now is a couple of things. One being I have to go on an extreme diet and exercise to try to give my body a chance to repair itself and see, like, if I'm able to cut back eating certain things and, like, work out more, if my body will kind of go, okay, let's do this, and, like, try to repair itself. So I have been told to have low, like low, not no, low carb, low gluten, low sugars, low dairy for the next couple of months. So that's proving to be really difficult already. Excuse me. I am day 3 into my diet currently as of vlogging this, and it's not impossible. It's not the worst thing, but I'm realizing how much of a carb person I was before I went on this diet, and it hurts. You know, I was really big into breads and pastas, and now I'm limiting myself from having those. So instead of having big heaping portions of noodles, I'm having like a scoop and then that's it. And my body is going, what the hell? It's almost like a withdrawal, I guess you could say, like when you love a food so much and then you just stop eating it, or you eat like really super small portions of it. It's like, ugh, you know, it's like a kid wanting to eat an entire, you know, bag of cookies and you give him one and then he wants more. It's like that. So I've been doing that, and I'm trying to get back into exercising. So I'm trying to get back into playing DDR with John and just trying to watch what I eat. And she suggested I kept a food journal, so I'm like writing stuff down as I eat them and like how I feel when I eat them and, you know, stuff like that. But so that's the step for now, is that I'm going to continue running lab work for the next couple of months, and then I'm going to get a ultrasound reevaluation in 3 months, so like April now I'll be getting that, and just continue dieting and exercising the best way I can. But at least I have kind of a guidance now, and I'm hoping that my like everything, like all my elements and hormones and stuff, kind of balance out and try to fix itself. The other thing is I'm on 3 different supplements. I'm on zinc, selenium, and saw palmetto, which is something I never heard of. And when I went to go actually buy the stuff at the pharmacy, it's like targeted towards men, so all the pills say for prostate health. It's pretty funny. But zinc and selenium are for my thyroid, and I'm also taking a multivitamin as well that has like iodine and like vitamin stuff in it. And the saw palmetto is supposed to help lower my testosterone levels, which are also high. So it's really interesting. And I don't know if I'm going crazy. I might be going crazy because I might be just like looking for the things that are happening, because I doubt after a few days I would see such quick results. But from what I read, saw palmetto can also be used for like hair nourishment and stuff like that, for like men who are balding, or like, you know, women who are having issues as well. And I've noticed something weird, like my hair is getting softer, but it's only day 3, so maybe it's just me. I'm gonna say it's just me. But I also like to think it's the supplements working, so take what you can give, right? So that's the health update that has taken me literally 3 days to vlog about, but that's the health update. And I'm only doing this and saying this because I want to share my experience with people who might be having issues, you know, like me, or may have issues finding the right kind of help, or maybe at the point of giving up trying to find anything wrong with them. And to you particular people that are watching this, I just want to tell you that there is hope, there is a way, and you really have to fight for it. If there is something wrong with you, if you do not feel right, if the medicine you're taking is not making you feel better, if the diagnosis you're given doesn't feel good, and I'm not saying it in a way to be a jerk to doctors, like by all means, listen to what doctors tell you, give them a chance. But if you follow what they do and you don't see improvement, or you don't feel like it's doing enough, please speak up. and tell your doctors, no, I don't think this is working and here's why, you know, and kind of fight for your health, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It's so easy to get lost in the chaos of it all, of just like running back and forth to doctors, and I get it, you know, when you're running around and you're like, I'm so sick of being stabbed, I'm so sick of being pricked, I'm so sick of being tested and being treated like a lab rat and going through all these things and seeing all these doctors. And it's so discouraging because the system isn't like you have one, you know, shaman in your village and like he can cure all of your ailments. It's like you have to see 20 different people before anything can be done about it, and it's so frustrating. But it's worth it once you actually figure out what's going on with you and you're able to get the right medication or the right supplements or something to help you. It's definitely worth it, and can potentially in the future save your life or future health turmoil. You know, like if I had pushed a little bit harder than I did over the past several years, I might have been able to have gotten a better diagnosis early on to avoid all of this, you know. I may not have ever had hypothyroidism. I might never have had PCOS if I like found the right connections and doctors and like pushed to be healthy and like get seen and get checked, but I didn't know. And I don't know why that is. I don't know if growing up I really wasn't taught that, because like even my family would just dismiss issues, and like even today they dismiss issues. Like I have family members who have had problems or like severe issues like heart attacks and strokes and cancer, and they just avoid the symptoms for years, and then by the time they actually go and get them checked out, it's because they have to go to the emergency room or something, and then they find out the hard way. So it might be stubbornness, I don't know, but I kind of wish I went through all this earlier on and not like in my 30s, like if I did this in my 20s kind of thing. But don't be like me, learn from me, and hopefully you'll be able to get the right diagnosis for what you need. But that's about it. That's about all I have. So I am probably going to be casually updating you guys on my health and what's going on. I'm not going to turn it into a whole series. I'm not going to like put in the spotlight and make some big speculation thing out of it. I don't want that. But if you really enjoy watching the vlogs and you really, you know, care about what's going on with me and the kitties and John and everything, then, you know, continue to watch, and I'll update as I go through the diet, as I go through the notion of trying to figure out what's going on with me and fix stuff, and I'll, you know, post every now and then an update and let you guys know where I am as far as that. So as far as I started exercising and dieting just a little bit, and this is probably more water weight gain than anything, but I've lost 1 pound. So hooray. 1 pound! 1 pound! Sorry, Dolly. I scared her. So here's hoping I can lose weight, stick to the diet as best as I can. Again, I was told that I have to limit, I can't eliminate. So at least not yet. So I don't know if in the future that means I would have to go into a more stricter diet where like I would have to eat gluten-free forever, or, you know, dairy-free forever. I'm not sure. But I'm kind of hoping for the rest of the year to kind of follow suit and that everything falls into place and works out accordingly, and we shall see months from now where I am. But I'm glad that the symptoms that I was experiencing and how I was feeling and what I was going through is not just me going crazy, not just me, you know, making shit up in my head or feeling like nothing is wrong with me when there's something actually was wrong with me. So it's a little relieving in a way. And I hope I can continue to improve upon it and none of the symptoms get worse, is basically the gist of this. But yeah, that's what's going on with me, and what has been going on with me for years, and hopefully I can feel a little bit more awake after all of this, and as time goes on, have a little bit more energy. That's what I miss the most, is the energy. Like, I could go bald, I could have skin like a reptile, and that's fine. I just want to be awake. Just want to be more energetic. I want to be able to get up in the morning and enjoy mornings. I want to be able to like work out and not feel like I'm dying. You know, there's certain things I miss that I would like to get back, and I'm hoping as this stuff gets treated and I start feeling better, I'm hoping I can get those back. Right, baby?
Baby? Yeah. You just chilling with Mom? Chilling with Mom. Yes. The baby? Mommy's baby? Do you hear the guys yelling downstairs? Yeah, they're really loud, aren't they? Yeah.
So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this vlog, and I hope this might help some of you, and I will see you guys in the future, and hopefully not wait 2 months to do a vlog again. So until next time, I'll see you then. Bye-bye.